Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to This Week in Nickelodeon History. My name is Captain Eric, and we are going over all of the Nickelodeon shows that either started or ended between the times of December 26th and January 1st. We are, of course, closing out 2021 and opening up 2022 this evening as of this recording. Happy New Year's. Glad to be releasing something in the new year and, bringing you the Nickelodeon history that you don't have to look up yourself. But before that, I did want to say a few words about the passing of Betty White, an absolute icon in the field of entertainment. Betty White, who was born on January 17th, 1922, was mere days away from her 100th birthday before her passing on December 31st, 2021. Just to give you an idea over this woman's history in entertainment, she had the Guinness World Record in 2018 for working longer in the television industry than any other human being, with a career spanning over 8 decades in entertainment and television, and has just become a staple just among so many different parts of television. I mean, she started out in many American game shows as a regular panelist, old classic game shows like Password and Match Game and Hollywood Squares, onto her most iconic role as Rose Nylund on the show Golden Girls, created by Susan Harris, which ran for 7 seasons and 180 episodes. It was a regular favorite in my house as a kid. My mom had the Golden Girls on a lot, and it's really emotional for me. I've watched that show for almost 3 decades of my life, and when I fell in love with that show, when I started watching it, it was honestly because of Estelle Getty, who played the Sophia, the mother of Dorothy on the show, who was played by B. Arthur. And since we're just talking about the Golden Girls for a second, might as well shout out to Rue McClanahan as Blanche. But Estelle Getty had a certain resemblance to my grandmother, just in size and demeanor, but also her sass. It was just perfect. So it was just watching this comedic version of my grandmother on television. And while watching that show, you can't help but fall in love with Rose, who was just the most naive woman on the face of the planet. But Betty White really seemed like a genuine, earnest person. The person you got in interviews and on television and on Saturday Night Live was the woman that's who she was. She just seemed like the sweetest person ever. It's reason as to why her iconic status has just grown with every single generation. I mean, I think about that. How many times have your parents brought up, something that was really cool to them as a kid, but just was out of style, out of fad, not really, rejuvenated, like Star Wars or something that's continually grown. And you're just like, okay, yeah, whatever, that was cool for you. Even when it comes to like actors and TV stars and whatnot, but it's just like every generation, they take one look at Betty White, they see her in one scene of one show and instantly know, okay, we get it. We understand the love for this woman, and it's so endearing. I have a lot of as a fan, I got a lot of emotions about that, and I'll certainly be processing those over the course of the next few days. It's as somebody said today, she was 99. Yeah, but it's just when it happens, when it happens, it's a different feeling than how you think about it before and then later on after. So literally recording this the day of, ladies and gentlemen. So That's some emotions there. But I do want to shout out the roles she had on Nickelodeon shows. She was the mother of Marianne Thornberry on the Wild Thornberries, which yeah, Sophie Hunter. She appeared in 3 episodes of the show. The episodes Tiger by the Tail, Family Tradition, and The Anniversary, and also appeared in the TV movie The Origin of Donnie. That's a lot of work for Betty White on the Wild Thornberries, and kudos for getting her. But she also has a role on SpongeBob SquarePants, in which she appears as the owner of there was a shop in the mall. I can look this up. Hold on. She was the owner. Pearl goes to the mall to get a job, and she happens to have the only shop that is open. She plays the character of Beatrice in the show and owns this store, Grandma's Apron, and of course plays a elderly looking fish. But she's one of those celebrities I wish were featured in a few more Nicktoons. But my goodness, the body of work she left behind is just iconic. There's so many words you can attribute to Betty White. All of them are true. She will be fondly missed, and just even decades from now, be as beloved as when she was here with us. So, put on your favorite Golden Girls. My favorite episode. You know what? I'm gonna shout it out right now. All right, just looked it up. It's the episode, season 1, episode 15, In a Bed of Roses. Check that out. Rest in peace, Betty White. We love you to tears. Miss you already. And on to this week in Nickelodeon history, because we start 2 years ago on January 1st, 2019. We had the premiere of Abby Hatcher, a Nick Jr. show created by Ryan Hoagie. The show is still ongoing, running for 2 seasons of 51 episodes. 4 years ago, on December 29th, 2017, we had the final episode of Harvey Beaks, created by C.H. Greenblatt. The show ran for 2 seasons of 52 episodes. I really have to dive into Harvey Beaks at some point. I love the work of C.H. Greenblatt. I love the work he left on SpongeBob SquarePants. I absolutely love Chowder, and Harvey Beaks is like the one, piece of his that I really haven't dived into. Even his work on Jellystone. I got to shout out Jellystone. If you have HBO Max, check out that show. I really like what they've done with some of the characters, even like when I'm not usually a fan of gender swapping, but you know what? When you're gonna make it this interesting, in some ways, and at least make it work in how I would want to build this town, I hey, I love it. I fell in love with that show. But yeah, I got to check out Harvey Beaks. It really was not treated well on Nickelodeon. Uh, 2 seasons of 52 episodes is a decent amount. 52 is up there with a lot of classic Nickelodeon shows. So having that number, that at least for me would make me feel fine. But yeah, it was one of those shows that was started on Nickelodeon and then was like tossed over to Nicktoons once, I guess, it didn't reach their height of ratings. And a few other shows would continue. But let me know in the comments below, or otherwise on social media, if you think Harvey Beaks is worth checking out. Really would appreciate your comments on that one, especially. 6 years ago, on January 1st, 2015, we had the final episode of React to That, a show developed by Nick Cannon and Benny and Rafi Fine, the Fine brothers, the ones behind all of the React videos on YouTube. Also, the Fine brothers who tried to copyright the term React, or even use of React, and just the idea of reacting to videos, even though it's just like, I don't know. Reaction videos have been around as long as we've been able to film people. It's just a thing. They became the biggest with it. They have certainly amassed the biggest audience for reaction videos. They have that claim, but that's kind of where that ends. You don't really like claim the past, or I don't think you should be able to then claim the future. If you become the best in something, if there were those before you, then you can all you can do is just excel at your craft, and that's fine. Be the king of the reaction, but yeah, the react to that was just another attempt at bringing YouTube to television. It ran for one season of 13 episodes. 14 years ago, on December 30th, 2007, we had the final episode of Shorts in a Bunch. This was a variety show of 13 episodes of a bunch of different animated shorts that Nickelodeon had at their disposal. These included various shorts from the Avatar The Last Airbender, Super Deformed shorts, the Christmas Calendar, Edgar and Ellen, Hero, Mr. Meaty, the Nicktoons Film Festival stuff, Planet Sketch, the Presentators, Primo, Prometheus and Bob from Kablam, Those Scurvy Rascals, and A Town Called Panic. That was just a firm list of different shorts they had, and then a few other pilots that aired throughout this time. This, I don't know. I really don't know why these things don't do better. These are always interesting. Like, you never know what you're gonna get. And to think of the history that have come from some of these, although these were seemingly shorts that were just already done and in rotation, and then here's a way to watch them all together. But I always loved when there was just different animation, different things going on. I loved Oh Yeah Cartoon. I love the Big Pick on Cartoon Network. I love seeing pilots pitted against each other, things like that. With of course YouTube, it's harder to do this stuff on television. You kind of then just put your pilots up on YouTube. Think of like Smiling Friends on Adult Swim, and hey, put a pilot out there, see how it does, and gauge the audience reaction. But we mentioned Mr. Meaty. And by the way, we got to celebrate. 16 years ago, on December 30th, 2005, the pilot episode of Mr. Meaty premiered on Nickelodeon. Mr. Meaty would then go on to become a TV show that ran for 2 seasons of 20 episodes. 17 shorts in total were created of Mr. Meaty that were aired in between commercial breaks on Nickelodeon before the main series. The show was created by puppet troupe known as the Grogs, or Grogs Incorporated. They're a Canadian puppet troupe that were active from 1992 to 2009. They produced a wide variety of shows and short films for Nickelodeon and their Canadian sister channels, YTV, Nickelodeon Canada, Treehouse TV, and CBC Television. I absolutely like Mr. Meaty is it's a deep favorite of mine. I know that Mr. Meaty in like the world of Nickelodeon, I am in the minority in the fan base, but there's something about it that just exudes just a classic. Not every show on Nickelodeon is there to be comfortable. One of the first Nicktoons is Ren and Stimpy, a show that exemplifies kind of what helped bring Nickelodeon to the next level of its metamorphosis in children's entertainment. What helped bring it to the mainstream was the fact that they had these one-of-a-kind cartoons, some as safe as Doug, and others that would go to the extremes that Ren and Stimpy would go in terms of just really gross, crude, disgusting humor that would be just like kind of, you'd almost want to squint at some points in time, but you just couldn't look away from the screen. And that kind of energy was missing for a while on Nickelodeon, and I thought Mr. Meaty brought a bit of that energy. Now, comparing the two, Ren and Stimpy and Mr. Meaty, that's kind of where it ends, because in terms of quality, I will obviously say Ren and Stimpy is a far superior show, but just that level of energy I was always interested in seeing. I wanted to see their weird storylines, how gross they would get, and they always seemed to outdo themselves in that factor, and sometimes they would even go above and beyond where you would think the show would go. They're like moments in that show, little snippets that I remember where it's like, wow, they were able to do that in the mid 2000s. Good for them. Wow. So look, I know Mr. Meaty gets a lot of hate. I know that it does not have a lot of fans out there, but I proudly rocked a Mr. Meaty shirt that I bought in the official Nickelodeon store that has got to be in storage somewhere. I'll do it like a deep dive one of these days. I got to go through boxes of shirts anyway that are in space bags, but it was a brown shirt that just had the characters on it, and on the back it said "Where friends meet to eat meat," and it was I absolutely, if I could find a mint condition version of that shirt and it was my size, I would still rock that right now, no problem. But yeah, any other Mr. Meaty fans out there, please shout out. Even if you absolutely despise the show, just let it be known. Make some noise out there in the comments. And yeah, if you've never seen the show, it is well worth the time to sit down and get yourself some Mr. Meaty. But 17 years ago, on December 27th, 2004, we had the final episode of Family Face Off Hollywood on Nick at Night, a competition where 6 families competed for a trip to Hawaii. The show was hosted by John Saley and Amy Davidson. 21 years ago, we had the Nickelodeon, a special that Nickelodeon did on television, looking at the current crop of kids and I guess their opinions on the world and whatnot, looking at the future, the last millennium, the new millennium, things like that. I honestly, I was not watching Nickelodeon this night. I definitely did not watch the special at the time, or at least I definitely don't remember. They had the Nickelodeon was actually a 24-hour commercial free documentary that aired on January 1st, 2000, that featured 600 children from around the world speaking candidly about their hopes and fears for the future and their realities of the present. Yeah, look at that. That's Nickelodeon using their voice for good. And I mean, these days they could just have a live stream going on YouTube and continuing the talk of children's thoughts of the present and the future, and I think children's point of view on how things are going is at least important enough to hear out. Some, at least the ones who, a kid who is articulate enough to let you know, hey, this is how they feel, that things are going on. Somebody who's a bit older, but that was pretty cool. And today we are ending with a big one, as 26 years ago on December 28th, 1995, we had the final episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, a live-action staple of a 90s Nickelodeon created by Will McRobb and Chris Viscardi. The show ran for 3 seasons of 34 episodes, along with 5 specials and 16 shorts that preceded the series premiere of this show. Another show that started out as a series of shorts and then would go on to become something bigger, something that Nickelodeon has regularly done over the span of their lifetime here. The Adventures of Pete and Pete stars Michael Morona and Danny Tamborelli, 2 gentlemen that I have had the pleasure of meeting once, and I hope to meet again once this whole pandemic stuff is done and they can tour again. A massive shout out to their podcast, The Adventures of Danny and Mike. If you like classic Nickelodeon, just a nice little shot of adrenaline, of nostalgia. They have had a few guests of classic Nickelodeon. Check out that podcast, The Adventures of Danny and Mike. I'll put a link to that podcast in this podcast description. But yeah, I got to meet them. They're big parts of Nickelodeon for me, especially, of course, Danny Tamborelli, who would then go on to be a part of all that and have a longer career on Nickelodeon. Mike Morona, though, would also go would be known as Jeff Mcallister in the Home Alone movies, Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, one of Kevin McAllister's brothers. The Adventures of Pete and Pete, though, is just an absolute fever dream of a show that could only be created and shown on Nickelodeon. It's one of a kind. It's a level of a show that has existed here and there in time. These kind of sitcoms where they live kind of in their own bubble, but I don't think one has ever gone to the levels that The Adventures of Pete and Pete has with its ideas and the kind of world you're watching. You know it's a television show, you know it's fictional, but there's just something about it. It's eerie. You feel like, even though it's a comedy, there's just like the world that they're presenting to you feels so off and so, to like certain extremes that you just can't look away. It's just one of those shows, I feel like, that glues you in with its wacky characters, its plots, yet it just feels like it's an everyday reality for these characters. If you've never watched the Adventures of Pete and Pete, I would absolutely go out of your way to watch it. And Nickelodeon, if you're listening, or somebody associated with Nickelodeon, please, for the love of Artie, the strongest man in the world, can you just release the third season on DVD? Apparently, according to co-creators Will McRobb and Chris Viscardi, who, by the way, the first two seasons released on DVD. The third seasons are actually done. They're pressed. They're ready to go, and they are just sitting in a warehouse. In an LA Times article, they discussed the situation. McRobb said, the same thing goes on with the mythical third season on DVD. They put out the first two and everyone's thrilled, and the third one doesn't come out and no one has ever told us why. And they made it. It's in the warehouse. Viscardi added, it's packaged, it's recorded. We did commentary tracks with a bunch of the cast. There's all those special extras on it. They pressed it. We saw it. Nothing. Lit. I I don't understand. There is literally somewhere in a warehouse a pallet. I mean, maybe at this point it's just been destroyed, but somewhere there's just boxes, I'm imagining, of these DVDs of the third season of The Adventures of Pete and Pete, ready to go, all done, and it's just sitting there for no reason. I guess the one of the reasons behind this is the DVD, which was originally scheduled to come out February 28th, 2006, was pushed back because of the merger between DreamWorks and Paramount Pictures, with the third season removed from Paramount's schedule. I I don't know how that affects things now. Especially how things are structured with streaming. I mean, of course, I believe the entire show is out on Paramount Plus. But yeah, hey, can you just release the third season on DVD? Can you put that out there, please? If it's done, you just can even make a link on a website, make it like a special edition that can, you'll just sell out. Like, it's just money sitting there. I don't want to give them really bad ideas like putting it out for more money, but I'd rather just get this out there in the hands of fans than anything else. So, but yeah, one of my biggest things when it comes to the Adventures of Pete and Pete that I love talking about is that if you've ever seen the Nickelodeon film Snow Day, the Nickelodeon movie Snow Day, it was originally a movie that was an Adventures of Pete and Pete movie. Like, they were gonna make a big screen Adventures of Pete and Pete movie, and for some reason, I guess just the idea was scrapped at some point and was then moved to its own standalone film. But I I would love to see that script of the Adventures of Pete and Pete movie. And even though I met him and I got to kind of ask this question to the guys, there's not much, as a kid, they might have not even seen a script, but I asked, if Artie was going to be in the film, if they had any memories about how much of it got done. And it didn't really get too far into production before it was changed. Obviously it was probably during the writing process, but yeah, just what could have been. There's another world out there in the multiverse that has the Adventures of Pete and Pete film in theaters, and I am forever jealous to them out there in the multiverse. Enjoy your Adventures of Pete and Pete movie, the one we never got. But anyway, my name is Captain Eric, and that has been This Week in Nickelodeon History. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for everything you guys have done this year. This past year has just been an absolute whirlwind in my personal life, and I've tried to not make that affect this show too much, or any of the work I'm doing as a content creator. It does get in the way sometimes, but what are you going to do? You just got to keep moving forward, and making content helps me kind of keep some structure in my life. So I really do hope that there's some of you out there who actually enjoy what I make and put out there. I really appreciate all of you who I've seen the numbers go up throughout the year, on the podcast front, certainly on the YouTube front. I hope, certainly with the plans that I have on the YouTube front moving through 2022, things will even increase on that front. And I hope so many of you are along with me. The Ready Crew is always an open door policy. You can always come and go as you please. But I hope those of you who stick around enjoy all of the content I have moving forward. But here's to 2021, and I'll see you in the next year. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all of you, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe. Have a good one.
On the Lord Hut, here we hut, Nick. On the Lord Hut, here we hut, Nick, Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living #1 Nickelodeon.